Damas y caballeros, welcome to the moral of the story. I'm your host, Robert Solano, the producer of this great podcast, and I am so excited for you to join us today as we continue to listen to the story of Angel, an Army veteran who inherited a restaurant from his aunt and is dealing with leadership challenges, stepping into this new role, as well as navigating his own personal challenges as well. Now, the story you're about to hear may sound like my voice, but it's actually narrated by my clone in AI voice, along with some other characters. And although the story is an original story by me, it is actually written by artificial intelligence as well, using programs like Claude AI and ChatGPT. So, without further ado, please enjoy the show, and hopefully you stick around for the post-show discussion where myself and my AI co-host discuss the chapter and discuss some of the technology behind the scenes. Without further ado, please enjoy this chapter of Second Service on the Moral of the Story podcast. Second Service, Chapter 5. The kitchen is quiet. Still, just me and Jorge in front of the stove. The only sounds are the gentle hiss of the gas range, the sizzle of meat hitting hot steel, the rhythmic thunk of my knife against the cutting board. It's the lull between lunch and dinner service. I lose myself in the familiar dance of cooking, chopping, stirring, seasoning. My body moves on autopilot, hands steady and sure even as my mind wanders. This is my sanctuary, my meditation. Here, in the heart of Aunt Allison's kitchen, I can almost feel her presence, can almost hear her voice guiding me, teaching me, just as she did when I was a boy.
Cooking is an act of love, Angelito. When you feed people, when you nourish them, you're giving them a piece of yourself, your heart, your soul. Never forget that.
I swallow hard against the sudden lump in my throat, blinking back the sting of tears. It must be the onions, I tell myself. But even now, months after her passing, the grief hits me at the most unexpected moments. I'll turn to ask her a question, to share a small triumph or frustration, and then reality comes crashing back, cold and harsh as a bucket of ice water. She's gone, and I'm here, fumbling my way through the impossible task of filling her shoes.
Jefe, you good?
Yeah, all good. Just lost in thought.
As I was saying, Angel, remember to let the lamb rest before searing. It's as much about patience as it is about technique.
I remember, Jorge. Let the salt seep deep into the meat to give the juices more flavor, right?
That's it. You're getting the hang of it. And don't forget your rosemary is right there, second shelf on the right, just like Allison used to keep it.
Got it? As I reach for the rosemary, I can almost hear Aunt Allison singing mingling with the sizzle of the pan.
Un poquito de sal y un toque de sazón. Con amor y paciencia, siempre hay razón.
I add a few sprigs of rosemary to the melted butter in the pan, using a spoon to coat the lamb with the fragrant, herb-infused butter.
Good. And when you're plating, think about balance and harmony. The dish should be as much a feast for the eyes as for the palate.
I plate with care, mindful of his teachings. Like this, Jorge?
Exactly like that. You're a natural, Angel. Your tia would be proud.
I feel a trust between us, a respect, hard-won and bone-deep. Jorge is more than just my head chef, my right hand in all things culinary. He's my mentor, my sounding board, the one person in this crazy, chaotic world of restaurant life who truly understands the weight of the mantle I've taken on.
After your board meeting, we need to talk about the delivery schedules. Tuesdays for greens, Thursdays for fish, and never forget Eduardo Steaks on Saturday. We have a few other local farms that deliver throughout the week.
Geez, how do you keep up with all of it?
You will get it in time. It's just like the front of the house. The first few days you didn't know your ass from your elbow, but look at you now. The kitchen is the same. It is overwhelming at first, but you'll get the hang of it eventually. Remember, Tuesdays for greens, Thursdays for fish, Saturday for steaks.
I'll try to remember. It's a lot sometimes. All the moving pieces.
You're doing all right, mijo. More than even. You got the heart for this, Angel. The passion. That's half the battle right there.
What's the other half?
The other half, it's about relationships, networks, Knowing your suppliers, your purveyors, building that trust, that rapport.
That makes sense. The restaurant business is all about connections. It's like an intricate web of people and products that keeps everything running smoothly.
That is actually something I wanted to talk to you about.
But before I can ask what it is, Colton pokes his head into the kitchen, his usually calm demeanor ruffled with a hint of nerves.
They're here.
Thanks, Colton. And as his head disappears, I return to Jorge. Let's chat later, okay?
You got it, Jefe. Good luck with your board meeting.
I head out to the dining room. 4 plates of lamb lollipops and saffron arancini balance precariously on a serving tray. The restaurant is quiet, empty, save for a single table nestled in the corner booth against the windows. 3 familiar faces look up as I approach, their expressions warm and expectant. Anthony rises from his seat, clasping my shoulder.
Angel right on time, just as I would expect from a military man.
Punctuality is a virtue, and from the looks of it, so is your cooking. My God, it smells divine.
Hi, Janet. Good to see you again. This is my Aunt Allison's recipes. I'm just following in her footsteps.
Don't sell yourself short. Allison always said you had a gift in the kitchen. Looks like she was right as usual.
Marcy, you are too kind. Thank you. Returning to their seats, I set the plates down on the table, alongside the 4 collated and stapled stacks of PowerPoint presentations and financial printouts I prepared for the meeting. Sitting down with them, I can't help but feel a sense of nervous anticipation. This is it, my first meeting with the board of Saffron Sage. They're already taking their first bites when I interrupt. Okay, let's get started. I wasn't sure what format Allison used for these meetings, so I created a presentation based on some formats I found on the internet. If you turn to the first page, you'll see a list of our operating expenses, labor costs, and...
Angel, I have to say this is incredible. It's not quite Allison's, but it's damn close.
Thank you, Janet. Actually, Allison taught me this recipe herself. Saffron arancini balls and sage lamb lollipops. They were her specialties.
The lamb is perfect.
I'm sorry, I should have asked everyone how they liked their lamb cooked.
Allison never would have let anyone into this group if they didn't like their steak medium rare.
Thank you. I learned from the best. Now, if you look at the next slide, it shows that our revenue, our profit margin last month, was 1% negative. But if we can just push a little harder, streamline our processes, I think we can...
Anthony, did you walk Angel through how this board really operates?
I may not have explained it as well as I should have.
Angel, we don't really talk shop at these meetings.
But you're the board of directors?
Oh, we know. Believe me, in my corporate days, it was meeting after meeting, all about net profits and shareholder values. I'm retired now, and this is my kind of board meeting. We're here to enjoy the food and the company, not to pore over balance sheets.
But then, what does the board do?
Let me explain. Back in '08, after the crash, Allison found herself in a real bind. The company she was leasing this building from went belly up. Bank foreclosed on the property, wanted to sell it off to some big developer.
Can you imagine? This restaurant, this institution, just gone in a blink, paved over for condos or a strip mall. My church ladies were up in arms, let me tell you.
So Allison hatched a plan. Figured she'd buy the place herself, keep the dream alive. But she needed capital for the down payment. We were all set to just give her the money outright. But you know Allison, stubborn as a mule and twice as proud.
You're going to be my board of directors, she said, co-owners, my brain trust, an honorary kitchen cabinet, and in exchange, 1 damn fine meal a month on the house.
Best investment I ever made.
Marcy spears a saffron-jeweled arancini and pops it into her mouth.
So yes, we call ourselves the board, but really we're more of a friendship circle, I guess you could say, bound by our love for Allison, for this place she built, and for the people, like you, who keep her vision alive.
The realization dawns on me, warming me like the afternoon sun. The stacks of printouts seem suddenly irrelevant. I've been so focused on filling Aunt Allison's shoes, I've overlooked the relationship she cultivated, the very foundation of Saffron and Sage.
We'd be delighted to have you join us, just as Allison did, sharing stories, offering advice, being part of the Saffron and Sage family.
And with that, the official part of the meeting dissolves into an afternoon of shared laughter and remembrances. I learn more about the board, about Marcy's knack for gardening and Janet's lack thereof, of Anthony's experiences as an immigration attorney, Marcy's pride in her grandchildren, and Janet's watercolor paintings. They're not just investors. They're keepers of Aunt Allison's legacy, now intertwined with my own journey. As the meal and meeting draw to a close, I realize I've been given not just a restaurant, but a family. Their words, their belief in me, gives me confidence as I step into the next part of my day. With a heart full of gratitude and a renewed sense of purpose, I bid them farewell and head towards my office. Sometime later, shortly before the family meal, Jorge knocks on the office door.
Jefe, you have a minute? There's something I need to talk to you about.
Of course, always. I wave him in, taking in the tension around his eyes, the set of his jaw. Is everything okay? What's wrong? Jorge sighs a heavy sound. He takes off his baseball cap, squeezes the rim between his hands like he's working up the nerve. A cold tendril of unease unfurls in my gut.
I've been offered a job, a head chef position in Vegas.
The words hit like a punch to the solar plexus, stealing my breath. I blink, trying to process. Vegas? But when? How?
After Allison, with everything up in the air and the restaurant closed, I put out some feelers, industry contacts, old buddies, just to see what was out there, you know? I wasn't looking to jump ship, I swear, but this opportunity... Angel, it's the kind of thing I've been working towards my whole career. A chance to really showcase my skills, to make a name for myself, maybe even get a Michelin star. I'd be a fool not to take it.
I swallow hard, my throat clicking with the dryness. This wasn't part of the plan. What little of a plan I had anyway. Jorge was my rock, my anchor in the chaos, the person I'd come to rely on most to help steer this ship. But even through the haze of shock and dismay, I can see the glimmer of excitement in his eyes, the barely contained thrum of anticipation running beneath his skin. This isn't just a job to him, it's a dream. The same dream that brought him to this country, to this kitchen. Who am I to stand in the way of that? I take a deep breath, fighting for composure. Jorge, that's incredible news. Truly, I'm so happy for you. And I am. Beneath the selfish sting of loss, the knee-jerk terror at the thought of soldiering on without him, I'm proud. I'm sure my aunt would be proud too. You deserve this. You've earned it a dozen times over. Saffron and Sage was lucky to have you for as long as we did. Jorge's shoulders sag with visible relief, the tension bleeding out of his posture.
Thank you, Angel. That means more than you know. I was so afraid you'd be angry that you'd think I was abandoning you, that I was dishonoring Allison.
Never. I won't lie. The thought of doing this without you, it's scary as hell. But I would never ask you to put your dreams on hold for me, for this place.
I'll help with the transition. I have some ideas for a replacement, some solid sous chefs who could step up, and I'll only be a phone call away day or night.
It won't be the same without you, but I'm happy for you, truly, and grateful for everything.
The feeling is entirely mutual.
He reaches out, grips my shoulder, a warrior's clasp, a salute of respect. He leaves and goes back to the kitchen to prepare for service. As soon as he leaves, I plop into my chair, exhaling a breathy, fuck. The transition to dinner service is smooth, despite the lingering shock of Jorge's announcement. It's a Wednesday, which means a slower pace, a chance to catch our breath between the weekend rushes. I watch from the pass as orders trickle in, as plates leave the kitchen in a steady stream of color and aroma. My mind churns as I slip away to the quiet of my office, the muted bustle of the dining room fading behind me. Jorge's replacement. It's a daunting prospect, a seemingly impossible void to fill. Where do I even begin to find someone with his unique blend of talent and leadership, his bone-deep understanding of Aunt Allison's vision? I slump into my desk chair, unsure how to navigate this challenge. I reach for the bottom drawer where I've stashed Aunt Allison's old records and notebooks. I lift out a stack of dog-eared folders, looking for job postings, interview notes, anything to point me in the right direction. I'm just starting to leaf through a tattered HR binder when a sharp knock breaks my concentration. I glance up to see Michelle, our hostess, hovering in the doorway.
You've got a call, boss. Line 1. It sounds urgent.
My gut clenches. A sick swoop of dread. Urgent calls are never good news in my experience. With a nod of thanks to Michelle, I reach for the blinking light of the hold button, my heart in my throat. This is Angel. How can I help you? There's a beat of silence, a ragged inhalation, and then...
Angel.
Just that. Just my name. But I'd know that voice anywhere, strained and tear-roughened as it is. Marisol, what is it? What's wrong?
We're at the hospital.
The words hit me like a physical blow, sending me reeling. In an instant, I'm transported back to that awful day, a lifetime ago. Marisol's broken voice on the crackling satellite phone, an ocean and a war zone away. And now, hearing that same devastation in her voice, that same raw agony, it's like ripping the scab off, exposing the festering hurt beneath.
We were in an accident. I was picking Ethan up from robotics club, and this car...
Blood roars in my ears, my vision tunneling. I grip the edge of the desk, white-knuckled, as if I can physically hold myself together. Is he...
They've taken Remy back for x-rays, and Ethan... Oh God, Angel, he's so frightened, and I can't...
She's crying now, quiet, hitching breaths that tear at my heart like claws. Where?
Phoenix Children's Hospital on Shea.
I'm on my way. I'll be there as soon as I can, okay? Just hold on, Mari. Hold on. And I'm moving, blindly scrabbling for my keys, my phone, operating on pure instinct, the primal need to get to my family, to fix what's broken. I'm vaguely aware of barking orders as I barrel through the restaurant. I have to go. Jorge is in charge.
Boss, are you okay? Do you need...
Family emergency.
Can we...
I'm fine. I need to go. It is all a blur as I peel out of the parking lot in a screech of rubber and desperation. All I can think is a single, fervent prayer, looping in my head like a mantra, like a lifeline. Please, I beg the uncaring universe, please let them be okay. Let them be breathing, hearts beating strong and sure. We've lost too much. I can't do it again. I can't bury another child. I won't survive it. Not this time.
Welcome back to the Moral of the Story podcast. I'm your co-host, Lexi, and today's chapter of Second Service ended with a heart-wrenching cliffhanger as Angel received a call that his son was in the hospital. This moment, especially Angel's reaction, considering his past experience of losing a baby, really heightens the emotional stakes. Robert, how do you think this turn of events affects Angel's development as a character, especially given his already heavy responsibilities?
Yeah, obviously at the end of the chapter, we learn that his son was in the hospital, and for the first time, we learned that he had lost the baby previously. We don't know all the details behind that yet. So I think it's still a little too early to see how this affects him, but I think kind of one of the key lessons here is, up until now, he has been working in the business nonstop, 70, 80 hours a week, every day, kind of neglecting his family for work. And, in this incident really made him realize, hey, like my family is more important. I need to leave right now and go handle business. And so I think no matter how challenging your business is, frequently, if there's an emergency, you can kind of step away and go handle business if the urgency is there.
That's a profound point, Robert. Balancing work and family is a classic challenge, and emergencies really put things into perspective, forcing us to prioritize what truly matters. Shifting gears a bit, earlier in the chapter, we saw Chef Jorge tell Angel he was taking another job. What do you think this signifies for Angel's journey, and how does it reflect on the themes of mentorship and change within the story?
Yeah, so what I hope to try to get across, being former military myself, actually, I'm still in the service, but Jorge, I kind of wrote that character with a platoon sergeant in mind, and a somewhat specific person in my past. I won't divulge who that is, but when I was a new lieutenant, just learning how this army works, I had this platoon sergeant that was, rough around the edges, crass, kind of. One moment he would be yelling and cursing at a soldier, but he was doing it with love, and everyone respected him, and it just that was kind of like my welcoming to the army, and he served as a mentor as I kind of developed my leadership skills early in my career. And I think Jorge is really that kind of person for Angel. um, but unfortunately, Angel's only had him for 2 to 3 weeks, and now obviously he's taken another job. And yeah, like, it's hard as a business owner, as a leader, when you lose that key person, when you lose someone that's been your mentor, your right hand man. It can be extremely daunting and quite frankly scary to think about how you are going to manage that business without that person. And I guess we'll have to figure out how Angel does it in future chapters.
Speaking of transitions, in the chapter there was also a significant focus on the importance of relationships in the business, especially noted during the board meeting. Can you expand on why building these relationships is vital for someone like Angel, who's new to this industry?
Yeah, that was one of the key leadership lessons in this chapter. Jorge talked about the importance of relationships and the vendors and the guy that brings the steak in on Saturdays and how important that is. And then this is the first chapter where you meet the board of directors, which is really just a group of friends. And you kind of start to see the background that they had this relationship with Allison, so that when Allison needed money some time ago to buy the restaurant, they said, yeah, sure, like we'll give you the money here. Here's the, in my head, it's like $500,000 or so. And I really kind of wanted to illustrate that it's all about relationships. And I don't care what industry you're in. Where I work now in program management and contracting, yeah, like we go to meetings and we look at these PowerPoint charts and flip through them, and there's graphs and numbers and figures, and your eyes just roll in the back of your head. But beyond that PowerPoint slide deck, it's really about relationships with the other people sitting around the table that are most important. And I honestly probably did not invest or understand the importance of those relationships until much later in my career. But that would be my suggestion for any leader, business owner, entrepreneur, is like really um, audit your relationships in your life and invest in them, because they can lead to just tremendous success if you have the right relationships. But Lexi, I have a question for you, because last time you changed the background on your avatar, and I believe it's a scene from The Office. And I have not given you any background about this question, but why do you have the background from The Office as your avatar background?
That's a fantastic emphasis on the power of relationships, Robert. As for the background of my avatar, using a scene from The Office is a way to make me seem more relatable and familiar to our listeners. The Office is a well-loved show known for its quirky characters and humorous take on workplace relationships and dynamics. It subtly echoes the theme of community and teamwork we discuss here, making the environment feel more casual and engaging for our audience. Speaking of which, you mentioned relationships are crucial in any industry. How do you think Angel can leverage his military background in building these vital connections in the restaurant business?
Um, Thank you, Lexi. However, I still want to ask you more questions before we transition back. So maybe I'll ask you one more question, and then I'll kind of let you wrap up the show. So the other question we had since the last time we did our show is, we had people ask, why do you have a British accent? And do you have any idea why you have a British accent? And, and after you answer, I will go ahead and kind of elaborate and provide some more details. But I'm curious what you think is the reason behind your British accent.
That's a great question, Robert. The choice of a British accent for my avatar is intended to add a touch of sophistication and clarity to the podcast. British accents are often perceived as more formal and authoritative, which can lend an air of credibility and seriousness when discussing complex or important topics. Plus, it provides a nice contrast to other voices on the show, making our podcast more diverse in sound and more engaging to a broader audience. Now, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this choice and any additional insights you might have about it.
Yeah, so one of the reasons why you have a British accent is because I thought it'd be fun to have a diversity of voices in this show. I mean, the story is narrated by a bunch of different voices, so I thought like how cool it would be to have like another British accent. Although we have actually a British character in the story, Kristen, but this is just another layer of complexity. And then, I think the other reason why I chose a British accent for you is because when I was listening to other avatars, when I listened to the English avatars that were available at the time for the video system I use, they didn't sound as real and authentic as kind of like the voices in the story because it's a different program. And it was easy to discern that like with the American accent avatar, like that you were an AI synthetic voice. But I feel like by adding a British accent, most Americans don't have as discerning of an ear for British accents. So, we think it, at least I think, it sounds cool. Maybe if I was British, I would probably, be able to tell that it wasn't a real British accent. But for myself and my hypothesis is most Americans, we can't tell as much. So it actually sounds more realistic to us since we're not as familiar with your accent as our own. So that's why you have a British accent. But our time is up, so I'll let you ask one more question and then we'll wrap up.
Thank you for sharing that, Robert. It's fascinating how the choice of accent can influence listener perception and add a unique flavour to our podcast. It's clear a lot of thought went into making the show as engaging and authentic as possible. For our final question today, what do you believe is the moral of the story for this chapter? What key lessons should our listeners take away from the challenges and developments we've seen Angel face?
I mentioned it before, but I think the moral of the story is relationships, whether that's relationships with your vendors if you're an entrepreneur, relationships with your board of directors if you have a board of directors or investors, or relationships with your family, because you never know when those relationships may be challenged or when something may happen to someone that you love, as happened in the end of this chapter. So I think that's the key lesson is like, you know, invest in your relationships because at the end of the day, that's what means more than anything, more than the money, more than the success, more than, you name it. It's the relationships that you build throughout your lifetime. So don't neglect those.
That's a powerful lesson, Robert, and a great note to end on. Investing in relationships truly is key, not just in business, but in all aspects of life. Thank you for sharing your insights and experiences in today's episode. To our listeners, thank you for tuning in. We hope you found this discussion enlightening and that you'll join us for more episodes. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. It helps us reach more people and continue to produce content that makes a difference. Until next time, take care and remember to cherish and nurture your relationships.